Good,
Anas,
good morning. Do you hear
welcome.
me?
Good. I hear you. You're back from Riyadh.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
I came back 2 days ago.
Okay. So what were you there for? What did you learn?
Well, I went to Vienna and I went to Riyadh and I learned a lot of things, but I have a list of things to talk about today.
Okay.
But the most important thing is that's what I heard, that when they met to virtually to decide to unwind the voluntary cuts by the 8 members of OPEC Plus, which some people made a big deal out of. Basically, it was planned since December. So the whole layout and what every country will produce starting in April was laid out in December. This should not be as a surprise. The
Should be in the
Trump
market.
name never the Trump name never been mentioned. They strongly believe that there were two conditions that they were met. The first condition is a large decrease in oil inventories, and they did decline substantially, especially in China. And the second condition is if they see a strong growth in oil demand, they see that. The problem is many analysts do not agree with them on the strong growth in oil demand, including myself. I don't think the demand is strong, but they see it. But from their point of view, they believe that they met the conditions. Now, some people are saying, well, the decision is political. They insist that the name Trump or anything related to politics was never mentioned in the meeting. But in my view, even if it is related to Trump, even if they think that they should do something to avoid statements by Trump. Notice the following, that when President Trump strengthened the sanctions on Iran, he never mentioned OPEC. He never mentioned Saudi Arabia.
Right.
And the idea here is very simple. OPEC Plus has Saudi Arabia and Russia. Trump is going to go to Saudi Arabia. He is going to meet with the Saudis. He's going to meet with the Arab leaders. He's going to meet with Putin. So think about it from Putin's point of view. How much he is willing to pay to have a switch in U.S. policy by 180 degrees.
As far as them
Seriously.
supporting him
I mean,
with the
it's just
Ukraine war.
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The same thing for the Saudis. I mean, to see this major change toward favoring Saudi Arabia and visiting Saudi Arabia as the first country in the world, Trump has to talk about money and talk about the Saudi money and all that stuff simply because in front of his base, he has to talk that way. But Saudi Arabia is more important than the way Trump is showing it. Saudi Arabia is part of the G20. Saudi Arabia has bigger influence than just the money. And Trump realizes that, but in front of his base, he has to talk the way he talks. But I have several points to talk about today. As you recall, the last time we talked about oil going sideways,
Yeah.
70 to 80. Despite all the problems, we are still there, probably on the lower end. We had a couple of days below 70, that's for Brent. But given the news cycle, that was normal. But the idea is still that we view it sideways in 70 to 80. I just want to clarify several points here. As you recall from previous shows, I mentioned that the media in 2024 did something that we never seen before. There were two major elections in the United States and India, and the media, especially Bloomberg and Reuters, basically were trying to prop up Biden, Harris, and Modi in India. So we had too many stories that been at least tilted or biased to support both. And therefore, it was natural for them to talk about how successful the sanctions are on Russia, on Russian oil, and how cooperative Modi is, and the economic growth in India, etc., etc. All of that has been proven to be wrong. It wasn't true. But one of the stories that we've been following right now is when we've seen Bloomberg and others talking about how sanctions were successful in reducing India's imports from Russia. Our view, and that's what we've written in the Daily Energy Report and in the newsletter, we said, look, You guys are missing the point. Russian oil companies are going through major maintenance, so they reduced exports. And if they reduce exports, then their customers have to find other sources. In addition, we ended up with two problems. The first one is when Biden um, imposed new sanctions on Russia before he left office, and that caused a lot of uncertainty in the market. And companies did not know what those sanctions mean, so they were rushing to find other substitutes until things cleared up. And then Trump came in and started talking about tariffs, and that caused more confusion in the market. And because of the confusion, companies start to look for other sources. But what we see now, we told our clients that look, India will continue to import oil from Russia, and whenever this thing clears up, they will import even more. And what we are seeing right now is India is importing more from Russia. The tariffs basically are putting downward pressure on oil prices. I strongly believe that if this continues, we are going to end up with a recession, which means that OPEC Plus is going to be in trouble because they need to cut production to balance the market. We also seen a major retreat from the International Energy Agency. This is really big news, and the media did not give it the enough size
Okay,
because
how
it
does
is
that
important.
impact? How does that change things in the oil market?
All of a sudden, the IEA, the International Energy Agency, went from we need to stop investing in oil and gas to we must invest in oil and gas.
Okay.
So that changes the whole sentiment toward the
Yeah.
whole sector. So that's a major change. The other one is Iraq is planning to import LNG. We are very bullish on LNG, by the way, especially in the medium term and long term. But here I would like to clarify a very important point. People think that the exemption that the United States used to give Iraq from Iran sanctions, they think that is stopped completely. The Trump administration stopped only the exemption to import electricity. Has nothing to do with gas. It is Iran who stopped exporting gas to Iraq, and Iraq is in deep trouble right now. So the only option is to rent a floating ship, basically to regasify the LNG. So they are working on that LNG. So for Iraq to import LNG has nothing to do with sanctions. I just want to clarify that point. The other point today is Scott Sheffield, the guy who established Pioneer Natural Resources (PXD), and he was the CEO and sold it for a massive amount of money to Exxon. Went on CNBC and made a statement that he sold because they were running out of tier one deposits.
Oil. Okay.
This is shocking on several fronts. And people said, look, that's why U.S. shale is going to peak, and literally Exxon got fooled.
So that peak oil story is back on the burner.
Correct. But I think he's going to be in deep trouble right now because PXD was showing in its financial reports that they have a 20-year, basically tier one deposits, and all of a sudden he is saying we are running out. Someone lied. Either he lied on CNBC because he wants to, it was a vendetta because they kicked him out of the board. He was not able to get on the board of Exxon or something. I think there is something big about this statement, and we will hear more about it.
Okay. Okay. Can I ask you a few questions here?
Sure. I'm done with the points that I want to mention.
All right, great. And you sound very strong. And I love that picture of you with who were you with that you were shaking hands when you were younger?
I visited with the Secretary General of OPEC in Vienna.
That's right.
And they made a big story out of it. I was kind of surprised, but I'm glad to see that.
All right. So I've been waiting for the low 60s for quite some time. So let's collaborate. And, a lot of people are going to call this a breakdown. A lot of bears are talking 40. Okay. I think that all we have to, that we're shaking out people right now. and that 62 will take this low out, and even these lows. So it's going to be the lowest price in 2 years. What do you think would support oil at 62 based upon your work that could generate a rally back to 100? Anything?
Yes, what we have a big story here. First of all, if those tariffs, it's not only the tariffs, basically, we have two impact here for Trump policies. He's creating uncertainty in the market. He's creating a lot of confusion. That confusion basically is delaying investment and delaying the purchases of big items.
Okay. All
And
right.
then they might cause a recession. So we have two stories here. You can put them all together. And you can see that there is a lot of pressure on oil prices, regardless, because of this confusion and because of the slow economic growth resulting from that. We do
Okay.
have certain factors that we can try to have a sense of what's going on in China, and the news are bad. So between China and the United States, even in the United States, basically, we just published a report last week showing that oil demand in the United States is still lower than 2019. Even jet fuel, where we have a record number of people flying, yet still lower than 2019. We still have some serious problems. People who are saying we have lower oil demand because EVs, will explain to me jet fuel then. Explain to me diesel. Explain to me trucking. So it's not about EVs. We have some serious major problems in the economy, and we have downward pressure. The only thing is we have to pay attention to is what the oil producing countries will do. The increase that they are planning to have, which is 138,000 barrels a day in April, is really a margin of error. If we have a small change or a reduction in Libya or Nigeria, that will wipe it out on its own.
Could I
So
postulate something that is a geo risk still? And I brought it up to you before, but I think it's even more imminent. The
yes.
current naval drills with China, Russia, and Iran, I think is a message, because it's possible that President Trump, when he goes to Saudi Arabia, also has something to say about a joint military strike on Iranian nuclear facilities. Okay,
I
I know you don't think it's going to happen, right? But will they contend with Iran as a nuclear power, or are they going to do something? Don't forget, you're talking about President Donald Trump, who believes there were assassination attempts against him that originated in Iran. He doesn't
I'll
let.
push
Go ahead.
I'll push against that for the following reason. If you talk to the Saudis and others in the region like the UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait, they will
Okay.
tell you, look, we have very bad experience with the United States historically. What they will do is they will strike and run away and leave us with the Iranians for the rest of our lives. They will leave
I
us with the
I
Houthis
I
and
I
terrorists,
believe
etc.
that. I believe that.
So their point of view basically is, no, I don't want an escalation. Either you go for the kill or no escalation. So you
Okay.
take one of the extremes. You don't take something in the middle. And the
Well,
reason why, if you
taking out their nuclear facility would be a kill, wouldn't it?
no, no, basically that will leave them with all the military power to cause all kind of chaos in the Gulf, in the Hormuz Straits, in Yemen, in Saudi Arabia. Remember,
Yeah,
right now, one of the issues that we have to remember is that the technology has
exactly.
evolved to the extent that few guys, ragtag guys who with few $100s can wreak havoc on a country. All they get to do is just a couple of drones, small drones, couple of explosives, and they can
True.
cause serious problems. It's not
But you
like before.
can't.
Before you need
You need bunker busters, which only the U.S. has, to take out
well,
their nuclear program.
yeah. I mean, even if you take it, that does not mean the threat to Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Gulf is still
I
there.
agree. That doesn't mean it won't
So,
happen,
so
because there'll
the
be a
idea
threat
here
to
is
others.
they will keep pushing the Trump administration and the Israelis not to take those measures.
Okay.
And I will tell you something I heard before, which is very important. The United States offered the Saudis kind of a dome to protect Saudi Arabia from Iran,
Right.
which means that the Saudis will pay billions of dollars every year for the cost of that dome forever. And I heard this from a senior official who said, look, I would rather go for war and go for the kill rather than to live under a dome for the rest of my life.
Okay.
So the idea here is they want to go for either extreme. Either you go and get rid of the regime or do very little and keep things as is. So right now there is kind of under the current agreement between the Saudis and the Iranians and the Houthis just to keep everything calm. Notice that
Okay.
Riyadh has not been attacked in the last 2 years because
Okay.
of that. And they
That's true.
refuse to do anything in the Red Sea against the Houthis for fear of that. So I don't think
Okay.
there will be an attack on Iran. The Iranian economy is collapsing. Their currency is collapsing. The situation is extremely bad. They lost in Syria. They lost in Lebanon, and they lost in Gaza. So I think they are just kind of trying to medicate their wounds and
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and pay attention on the most important issues right now.
Okay. Well, and I do think you're right because I know you don't think it will happen, but should it happen, Saudi Arabia is very vulnerable. And it's
Absolutely.
interesting, and because they can't get through the dome in Tel Aviv and in Israel, and Saudi Arabia should get the dome. Are you saying that there's peace between the Shia and Sunnis now, the way you described what's happening in the Gulf?
It's, I mean, the whole description of Shia versus Sunni, this is more of a Western view than what reality is.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
willing to learn.
Let me give you a couple of examples. If you look at Saddam Hussein's government, Saddam Hussein government, his vice president
Sunni.
was Christian.
Oh,
His vice president was Christian. Tariq Aziz was Christian.
that's
Okay.
right.
His other assistants were Shia. So the
Okay.
whole idea of even if you look at Syria today, you look at the Kurds, for example, you look at Turkey, okay? The foreign minister of Turkey is Kurd. The right hand
That's a
man,
change. That's a
the
change.
right hand man for Erdogan is Kurd.
Right.
So the whole Western view of what's going on there is kind of distorted in various ways. So if you look at even during the Assad regime, the father, it was Christian, Jews, Shia, Alawites, Sunnis, all living
Yeah.
together,
It
even
was.
intermarrying. So how this is becoming the way we've seen, it just kind of amazing
Well,
to
there have been
see.
some historical examples of Saddam. Bush asked the Shiites to rise up, and we weren't there for them, and Saddam took retribution on them. Iraq and Iran, one being Sunni, one being Shiite, fought a very long, destructive war.
Well,
So
I'll tell you
there are some reasons, and it's not just Western
well,
on
I will
us.
give you another example to counter that. There was a problem between Iran and Azerbaijan has problem with Armenia, who are Christians.
Yeah,
Azerbaijan are
I'm
Shia, mostly
half.
Shia. Iran are mostly Shia. Yet Iran fought the Shia Azerbaijani and stood with the Christians.
Wow. I'd love to see more of that, Anas. Perhaps I have a Western view. I do live in California. It's West. Uh, from Chicago, so I was Midwest. So I
Well,
have
you
Western
invited me,
views.
so that's
Yeah, I'm
a
I'm
very
ecu
positive point.
I'm ecumenical. So I think I love everybody. Okay, when it comes to that, people it's the same music with different names. Okay, it's the same music and people have different song titles. That's what I think. So
But when it comes
then
to politics,
yeah.
when it comes to politics, I'm going to raise a question for the audience, and I want them to pay attention to it, which I
All
raised
right.
before, but I want to emphasize it one more time. If you
Okay.
look at Russian Urals exports to Asia, all the Urals crude goes through the Suez Canal and the Red Sea.
Yeah.
So they pass in front of the Houthis without any attacks, without any problems. Yet, the Russians cannot send a single LNG tanker through the Red Sea. And the question is why?
Okay, audience, why? Can you
So,
answer?
another
Let me.
one, another
Okay.
one. The
All right.
Qataris have no problems with the Houthis at all. Yet the Qataris cannot send a single LNG tanker through the Red Sea and it has to go around Africa. But
Why?
hundreds we have hundreds of oil tankers that pass through the Red Sea every week without any problems, but LNG, no. Since
Russia's
January,
one of our attendees said Russia is meddling too much
well,
in
Russia
the
would
Red
love to
Sea.
send its LNG through the Red Sea. It's way cheaper.
Okay. All right. So give us the answer. No one's come up with the answer. Why can't they send ships through?
Well, I will leave that. I'm not going to answer it right now,
Come
but
on, man. You can't leave
I
me.
will. I will. I really want people to talk about it. I really want
All
people
right.
to talk about it because if I give the answer, they
All
might just
right.
take it easy and forget about it tomorrow.
All right. You're right. By nature, people are lazy. So we'll have to do someone Google that for me. And Anas, you've been all over the place, and I love talking to you. And thank you for letting me, you know, uh, get things off, my mind of what I think is happening, and it gives me balance. I'm still going to be buying WTI at 62. I don't know what the catalyst is going to be, but I'm going to try it down there. And I think that people need to follow you when it comes to the most important thing that we're all fighting over and running out of. Follow Anas El-Haji on X. Go to his different, I think you have, don't you have a stack? What's that, Substack as
Yeah, we
well,
do have two
Anas?
Substacks. We have the Daily Energy Report, and we do have the newsletter. And what we write in the Daily Energy Report basically is really worth a while.
Okay. All right. So, I really believe that's important. I think that, I also think that that would be one of the things that would also screw up Trump's plan to get rates down by taking oil down. I think that there could be a rally in crude to be the opposite. He's had a few things go his way. A weaker dollar, that's something that he wanted, and lower crude so far. But for all I know, he wants this stock market correction. Let me ask you this, and we'll wrap it. Is this a planned recession to get kind of a Reagan strategy where he got all the stuff out of the way at the beginning of his term? They want a lower 10-year yield. Could this be something that they're not interested in stopping? They want it to occur, to have a
Let me put it
recession.
this way. Let me put it this way. I'm going to put my academic hat and talk. For the last 120 years, we have tens of thousands of books, papers, research papers, articles, and columns in newspapers talking about government policy failures. So the norm is mostly for
Failure.
failures. And for people who are giving this administration 100% success on all policies, does not fit the history of government. This could be either the best ever that ever happened, or we are in for a big failure. So the
Yeah.
idea that, in a sense, we are giving them too much credit by
Yeah.
trying to tell them they are doing this and they are doing this, they're doing. The fact is, if you look at what happened yesterday at the purchase of Tesla by the
Yeah.
president and the top Republican leaders, that does not make any sense. That does not sound good politics. That does not sound kind of transparent things in a way where it seems they are benefiting someone.
It
You
kind of
look at what they
cheapens
did.
it cheapens the office to have an infomercial on Tesla.
Correct. And if you look at what they did with crypto and everything else,
Yeah.
I mean, it's very hard to say or to give them that much credit on policy.
All right. Anyway, I feel like I'm living in a Twilight Zone episode, and it doesn't end. Anyway, thank you, Rod Serling. Anas, thank you, my brother. Inshallah, good
Inshallah.
Ramadan to you, buddy, and talk to you in May or June.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Anas El Haji has to be part of your intelligence gathering, or you're not going to know where the flow is. Adios, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. You could join the team in 15 minutes on the Morning Edge, and I'll see you tomorrow. Don't just count your pips, count your blessings, right? Okay. Baraka. Blessings. All right, guys. Adios.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.